As I said, if things have changed over the last 10 years, the way that we have seen, a lot of credit has to go to e-commerce. I think the Amazons and Alibabas have really made us, and to some extent, they have kind of pampered us into the way that we consume goods and order online. I actually skimmed through the headlines today, and it's all about e-commerce and logistic for goods purchased online. How many of you in the room have not heard about Shein and Temu? If you have not heard, please leave the hall. You are not supposed to be here. Okay, fashion empire Shein filed for IPO at London Stock Exchange, not in the US. You know what the reasons are. They're supposed to list in the US at New York Stock Exchange. Some statistics to put the discussion as we have to conclude at 2 p.m. sharp. You're buying so much from Temu and Shein, the air cargo industry can't keep up. E-commerce is growing and growing rapidly. There is no doubt about it. 2.63 billion online shoppers in 2023. That's an industry figure. Another industry figure says 34% shop once in a week, at least 79% once in a month. You figure out where do you belong. According to a McKinsey report, 8.2 billion orders annually. This is the total order volume, regardless of shipping and fulfillment methods, like your mail volume, forward located inventory, bulk, and direct injection. And I think air cargo is built for e-commerce, and global e-commerce logistics value is estimated to be around 38.6 billion as of 2023, according to a report and estimate by Parcel Monitor. These are big numbers. We have seen, read about stories about Shein and Temu. The number of freighters being flying from China to the US and Europe. Someone said it's like 400, several millions of packets. The opportunity is huge, but is the air cargo industry and logistics ready for such volume growth? Can I get initial round of comments starting with Coco Sun?
I think as the service vendor, we also handle so much volume from the Temu and the Shein as well. And we see for the next step, they still have a lot of future. And for the USA and Europe, they still have a lot of potential cargo from China. And we already planning a lot of capacity, is for example, the ACMI and the charter. So I think for the future, we still stick on the strategy. We will focus a lot of capacity for the platform and also for the own website, not just like Shein and Temu. And from the strategy planning from the platform, there's still a lot of focus for the Europe this year. And for USA, they think still keep the same level and will capacity prepare. We have a lot of long-term capacity purchasing contract with just like airline and a lot of ACMI airline as well.
Do you have a problem with capacity? Is there more demand?
Yes, a lot to prepare for Euro and USA as well.
All airlines in the hall, please approach Coco Sun. Mark.
On the capacity issue, you bring up a really good point. While e-commerce is booming, there are other markets booming too. So we have in general a very high demand for capacity. And we all know our Econ 101 that if you've got high demand and relatively low supply, that means prices go up. So what we have to keep in mind with e-commerce is it is growing super fast at the same pace as other industries are growing. And we don't have an industry freight-wise that's growing as fast capacity-wise. That's why it's so important in my mind, going back to my comments earlier, we've got to find how we can be more efficient to satisfy the demand not only for e-commerce, but for all the other demand we have across our networks.
Kerry?
Thanks, Reggie. Look, I think capacity is definitely a challenge, I think, as e-commerce grows really quickly. But I think how you use that capacity and implementing, I think, Mark, you've spoken a lot about technology and efficiency. The reality is that there's also a lot of capacity in the market today that is not optimized, that's not used as it should be. And we have themes like sustainability and getting the most out of all that capacity that exists today. Today we work with Temu, we work with Shein, and part of that challenge ultimately is matching up that consumer demand. And consumer demand is always going to try to drive things like speed, price down as much as possible. So you've got to be ready to optimize for that. It's less, I think, just about creating more capacity and I think being more intelligent ultimately in how you use it and how you use technology to really kind of push the needle with the capacity that you have.
Thomas?
Okay. Before, as a joke, among the e-commerce platform, we got one more very important platform called AliExpress. Don't forget about it. So this actually this is important for Alibaba Group. So honestly, I think the capacity is a good topic. I think a lot of airlines are already investing a lot of capacity on the fleet, and then, but most important actually is about the network combinations. Right now, I think we cannot always keen on this kind of OD origin destination arrangement. We need to think about a hub and spoke approach about that, because otherwise, like few gentlemen and lady mentioned, it's never be optimized because the world is so big. If you want to reach everything by one direction route, it's never possible. So Cainiao, as a leading cross-border e-commerce company, we keen to build a very strong hub and spoke network to bring all the airlines together in one location, a few locations. So I always say that we're the facilitator, we're the connector to joining for all the airlines and capacity together. Otherwise, one airline cannot fulfill all. So that's the reason why we need to work together, like Mark mentioned, efficiency. So if we want to become hub and spoke models, the efficiency, the sharing of data, the understanding about the upstream and downstream is so important. Last but not least, actually, not just capacity on the air. The capacity on the ground is also very important. When you can fly efficiently, but you cannot solve on the ground efficiently in creating problem. Right now, a lot of airports is facing problem about congestion, not because of airline. That is also we need to solve together, forming a great, efficient hub and spoke network together.
No, there are important statistics on the amount of cargo coming from e-commerce channels. I think what we must also distinguish is anything that you do on your mobile, maybe a fund transfer, that's also an e-commerce. Booking a ticket online, that's also an e-commerce. But then that is not going to give air cargo industry any volume to carry. What we need is people buying online. So keep buying online so that will give us enough of cargo volume. Some years back, there used to be a cherry charters coming into Shanghai because people in China are very fond of cherries coming from Latin America. And there used to be cherry charters and the delivery used to happen in like 15 minutes. I come from India and you have something called a 19 minutes delivery, which is part of a quick commerce, part of, you basically, you can track everything. You're talking about reliability, you're talking about transparency, you're talking about traceability. You can trace everything. But we have an industry that we're still struggling to trace the packets that are flying around. What I want to ask each one of you is, how do we measure the cargo coming from e-commerce channels? Because there are IATA figures which says by 2027, you will have 30% of the cargo volume coming from e-commerce channels. But how do we know? Because a lot of e-commerce also go as a general cargo. And that's a question that I asked Thomas a couple of months back in Liège. Any insights on that? How do we measure cargo coming from e-commerce channels?
Honestly, right now it's very confused, okay? Because e-commerce cargo carried by the air review, carried by general cargo. But I believe this will change because like Mark mentioned, also other people know about, I'm also stopping in the IATA World Cargo Symposium. The customs and regulations right now still is dinosaurs. Openly speaking, the custom policy not changing. Okay, honestly, China is okay because China, every e-commerce is declared differently for export under different custom system. But apart from China, what else company is using the custom policies? And don't forget, e-commerce is not express. Don't use the same standard. It's different, okay? So we are different from DHL, UPS, or FedEx, you know what I mean? So I believe that if you want to make measure about the capacity contribution by e-commerce, we need to work together with custom, how to make it real approach for clearance. I believe the standard is going more and more better right now because the more the country aware of what is standard for e-commerce. Okay, because e-commerce a lot of combination, B2C, C2C, PPC, and in the future will be a D2D. I don't know where they're about, but that needs about the government together to define and standard. The second thing I need to highlight is IATA. IATA need to stand front to leading us about the data integration. Come on, right now we're still using a lot of traditional way. How many airlines still using SITA? I don't like SITA because it charged me money. Come on. So this is about, but I like them about the messaging, but how we transform it into an integration on one standard, on the one digitalization approach, link everyone together. Forwarder, platform, airlines, hub operation, everything. That creating that Reji you mentioned about real measurement about the capacity, real measurement about volume to contribute.
Yeah, think about the way that you conduct yourself online. You have a digital twin. You do banking. You have social identities. You don't go to a bank to do a transaction. It's so much that's being done. So the question is, how do we replicate that digital twin identity on an enterprise level at an organizational level? Kerry, Teleport has very ambitious goals. 2 billion packets in the next 5 years. How
2
do you
million
do?
by the next year a day.
How do you do? And what is the potential that you see in terms of really measuring the cargo coming from e-commerce channels?
Sure. And let me just say, I think, Thomas's enthusiasm alone is probably going to lead this revolution to basically kind of change everything in logistics. So thanks, Thomas, for that. Look, I want to really stress, I think, the importance of partnerships, right? And I know we're still on this theme of capacity, et cetera, et cetera. You're right. We do have big goals. We do several 100,000 parcels per day today. By the end of next year, we expect to be at 2 million at Teleport. But we can't do this all by ourselves, right? We have to take advantage of that existing network that exists. We started doing that this year very strategically. So we've started working with about 30 other airlines to basically put together cohesive solutions for e-commerce players, right? Now we're shipping further than we ever have before, not just focused on Southeast Asia, but going to Australia and other places as well. Obviously connecting China to the region. That's why we're here. Big ambitions there. But I think, one of the things that has really shifted in our mindset is maybe in the very beginning, we thought, well, how do we do this ourselves, right? How do we go direct? How do we build our own capacity? How do we induct freighters, et cetera? That's all important, but it doesn't get you there. Ultimately, there's still a network that exists today that already flies, that can be extremely strategic when used correctly. And as long as we can incorporate that network into our technology, you basically have a product that ultimately you can now solution for the e-commerce world very aggressively. So I think that's our focus for the next year or so, Reji.
Thanks, Kerry. Mark, one of the things that you would like to do is optimizing your assets. You have very, very, very expensive assets that you have, 28 777 freighters. You have to optimize that assets, every inch of it. And I think technology is one solution to that. Partnerships is the another way. You can't, as Thomas said, you can't be everywhere in the world. You got to have partnership. We have seen a number of partnerships being announced. I know Teleport has several partnerships. They go public only with a few of them that we are aware of it. How do you create this partnership to really enhance your value proposition to e-commerce customers?
That's a great question, and I'll follow up on what both my colleagues just said here. I see it three different components for Qatar Airways. Number one is a partnership between the freight operation and the passenger operation. We fly to more points in Europe with wide bodies than any other airline, but they're not all Madrid and Amsterdam and Frankfurt. So part of that is working with the passenger airline to access their belly capacity in combination with our freighter capacity. It's number one. The second is partnering with all the distributors, all of our distribution channels, so that they know if you have, and somebody talked about trucking, if they know, hey, I'm sending these things from Hong Kong to London and trucking them up to Edinburgh, if they know that, no, I've got 2 wide bodies a day that has got belly capacity into Edinburgh, let me put them on those. It's more efficient. It's cheaper because the bellies, it's just belly capacity. So that's the second level of partnership, is understanding from the partner where they ultimately are sending things and where do we have capacity. And when I say we, I don't mean just us, but all of the partners. And the third is really working among airlines. My background on the passenger side is building long-term partnerships. I built with my colleague at Air France the Delta Air France partnership. On the passenger side, I built for Qatar Airways, the Iberia, the BA, the American partnerships. You may have seen a couple of weeks ago, we announced a partnership with Malaysian Airlines. I think that's one thing that the passenger side has done that we and the cargo side need to do more is partner among cargo partners so that we get the best. We optimize networks, as you said, so perfectly, and then we can offer it to our customers more efficient networks at a lower price, and that we all then can get a return on that expensive asset that we're flying around. So it's 3 tiers of partnerships.
Thanks, Mark. Coco, what is the change in relationship that you see in the so-called new shippers? I remember 2014 TIACA Air Cargo Forum in Seoul. One of the things that we heard was that know your shipper. 20 years back, know your shipper was quite easy because you would deal with 3 or 4 freight forwarders. You would have like 3 or 4 airway bill on a freighter. But today that is like multiplied into several hundreds because you are dealing with several shippers. What is the changing equation that as a freight forwarder you have with shippers? The new kind of shippers who really would like very exclusive relationship with direct relationship with airlines. What is the dynamics that you see in the e-commerce scenario?
I think for the shipper now, there is just like there is a traditional shipper and e-commerce shipper. Because we already see the data from our system, there is a lot of shipper that just like a booking use the API interaction, and most of them belong to the e-commerce, and it is the new style shipper. And for the traditional shipper, still use the email to booking, and I think there is 2 ways. And for the e-commerce shipper, just like a platform, just like a Shein and Cainiao, they will use API interaction to booking and do the tracing, checking, and the transparent data inquiry. A lot of problem from them. And for the traditional, it is ratio is step by step, and it is decrease. And also from the service vendor, we already have a lot of development and a lot of focus for the IT developments. And we also put a lot of money here. And from the last 10 years ago, we already started the IT team developments. So for now, we have at least 2 platforms to shipper. One is booking, one is for checking. And for the new shipper, especially for the e-commerce, they will use the IT system to booking.
Okay, Thomas, I want to ask you. This is regarding speed versus reliability and speed versus cost. E-commerce is all about speed, and also it's also about cost. But the answer could be different from where you was. I remember doing a conference of same topic last year in Munich, and people in Canada they don't care about probably speed, but they would want more reliable. If you ask me, I don't care if I ordered a pizza and would that be delivered in 19 minutes or 18 minutes. I think I wouldn't die because of hunger. It is okay to be delivered in 20 minutes. But then there is a race to deliver on time, from expected time of arrival to actual time of arrival. As you see it on your smartphone, you can really track, and the person would be sending you messages across. Speed versus reliability, speed versus cost. What do you see is the emerging trend, and juxtapose that with the sustainability goals? That's a question to all of you.
Very good question. Okay. So first of all, I want to highlight that speed and reliability is not versus. So I want to reshape the definition. Reliability is foundation. So let's make it simple that everyone need to be reliable first. Okay. So this is standard. Okay. Otherwise, you're not supposing to serving the customers. Okay. So then we come back to another versus with speed and cost. My view actually is speed and cost is linearly equal. For example, e-commerce right now, not everyone is chasing how fast. Someone, yes. So that means you can find that end-to-end solution for China perspective. We have product for 10 days. We have product for 7 days. We got a product for 5 days. That associated with necessary cost. Okay? So that means the cost is associated with what reliable experience, what they're going to having. Okay? That related to the speed. If we want to talking about speed, rather to transform it into experience. It's about how experience you want to enjoy. Okay, that's what I want to comment. Okay, back to another about cost. Doesn't mean that I need to have a higher expectation of speed or expectation about how fast I get my parcels. But don't forget, every consumer like better cost. So cost is never arguable. Is everyone want to having better cost. So that means is our cost in another way around is a competitive advantage. So that means for everyone here, we need to look at the cost as a competitive advantage, how to matching with the right expectation of speed. So this is versus not contract each other. So this is what I want to comment: reliability, speed, and cost. Okay. So back to your question about sustainability. Okay. Honestly, it's a long journey. It's a long journey. So this is also linked to a community relationship. First of all, as an end-to-end solution provider, we also want to have more sustainable way to reduce the packaging. But back to my first question, reliability. Think about it. Why we want the packaging so heavy? Because we not trust reliable partners. But someone tell me that you don't worry about that. You will connect to my cargo. You will be safe. Then why then I need a package? So ultimately, if this reliability come up to a standard, the sustainability will be coming down as well. This is my feeling, but it's long journey because there's a different standard among the world. We need to all work together.
Okay, we need to close. We have a few more minutes. Kerry, reliability, cost, speed, how do you balance?
Yeah, so I echo Thomas's thoughts. But reliability basically is non-negotiable, right? Like that is something that has to exist in your product. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how fast you are. It doesn't matter how cheap you are. If people can't depend on you, then you don't have a product. That's it, period. Now, I will say that I'll try to answer this question a bit more specifically because I do think that we could argue all day about cost versus speed. And the reality ultimately is that the consumer always wants both, and that's never really going to change. But what we have seen in the market, especially in the last 12 months, is there has been a little bit of a shift from the e-commerce platforms and others to prioritize speed, where I think in the past it was very, very cost sensitive. It was always about cost and reducing rates or whatever. We're noticing a little bit of a shift where it's starting to matter a little bit more for the consumer to basically say, look, I'm not really down with this 5-day, 6-day, 7-day delivery for my stuff that I order. Reggie, in your example of ordering a pizza, when you're already at 19 minutes, sure, that 18, 1 minute, 2 minutes probably isn't a big deal. But today in the e-commerce world, especially in places like Southeast Asia, which are heavily fragmented, and it can be very slow. And there's a tremendous opportunity for improvement. I think consumers are starting to demand that now.
Mark?
The only thing I would add, because I completely agree with just both of you said, is reliability is standard, and it's also the quality. It all depends on what you're moving. There's a different standard for reliability with live animals than there is for cell phones. So reliability and quality of delivery is really dependent on what you're moving. But otherwise, fully agree with what you both said, which makes me actually optimistic that as an industry, we can move forward with the things I mentioned earlier, because we have general alignment and what we think is important.
Coco, the last word to you.
Yeah, from the speed wise, I think from the end-to-end service, we still focus a lot faster and faster. But from the service vendor, we think maybe stable. And for the reliability, it is very high premium per target. And from our wise, we think we need to join together to implement the infrastructure and for the IT system to provide the end-to-end faster speed service to the customer. Yeah.
I'm actually looking at my notes, and there are like 90% of my notes have not been covered. There is a B2, B2C, B2B, B2C, D2C, and C2C, and then of course the de minimis, the entire regulation that is being making headlines all around. I think we will have another panel discussion maybe when sometime very soon. We will discuss those topics. Join me to thank my panel members on stage. It's been a fascinating experience moderating this session. Thank you so much.